Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well on this Friday. Um, my 7 o'clock guest speaker did not show up, so I'm gonna quickly do something. So it may not be the full hour. I just wanted to be able to come and catch up with everybody. As many of you may know or may not know, my primary account on Facebook was hacked and they tried to scam me to get it back. And I found out that the person that I got hacked through was a friend who I thought I could trust. And I realized it wasn't her, it was somebody else that hacked into her account. So it seems like they're doing whoever they can get into. So if you are on Facebook and you have me as Deborah D. Bird as your friend, please be aware that at least the last 2 weeks, I've had I do not have control of what goes on right now under that name. So I pray, and I have been praying that nobody gets hacked or scammed because of my name that they may have used. And I am trying my best to try to get control of that account back. But a lot of things that happened the last 2 weeks, the grieving of losing that account really did get to me. But I was also in Miami dealing with my helping my aunts. I have aunts that are twins. This is all on my mother's side, and one of the twins was in ICU, and the other one, who had been the caregiver for her, was uh, going through a lot of emotional things because of her sister. And the older sister, my other aunt, all sisters now, was in the hospital and in rehab. And so it was like a lot was going on. And then while I was in the hospital visiting my aunt in ICU, my car was repossessed. Now, I had been making payments. It may not have been the full payments, but I have been making at least 2/3 of the payment. I'm sorry, I was scammed into that vehicle. I was stuck with the vehicle. I was always in contact with the bank, letting them know I desperately been trying to find work. And it was very, very difficult to try to catch up on the payments. And somehow they tracked me in Miami at the hospital. And I hear there's supposed to be some law out there that they're not supposed to, um, what's the word? Repossess if you're on the hospital property, nursing home properties, hospital property, and I forgot a couple other places that it was against the law. But I have to see the law. I have to see it in writing so that I do understand what the law is actually saying because otherwise I want my money back. And I'm going to go after the bank who also should have known. But the bank is claiming they did not know I was in Miami with my aunts in the hospital. They're claiming they did not know that because when they did that, I was very angry. I was 7 hours away from where I lived. I did not know how I was going to get home, um, and it pretty much drained my account. I almost had no money for gas to get back, and it just sorry about that. Um, don't touch cords when it's recording. So anyway, somehow, through God's grace, I did get the call back and my stuff, but it's gonna really cost me more money that I just don't have. I just don't have, and I'm hating that vehicle more and more. It's like it, it has all the wonderful little whistles and all that stuff, and it's a beautiful car, but because it's how I ended up getting the car, I was scammed into it. I was lied to. The bank knows this. The dealer wouldn't take the car back. And I told the bank, look, if you want that money, go after the dealership because they're the ones who lied and scammed me. And you guys are doing nothing, absolutely nothing to these dealerships who are lying and scamming people. And it's our credit that gets ruined. And somebody says, well, why don't you refinance it? I would, but my income is not enough to refinance it. And especially now that I have not been making the payments, the full payments, that makes it really, really difficult. So I'm ready. I pretty much have the car cleaned up because I'm afraid it's going to happen again. But at least I'm here in Gainesville. I'm home. So just please pray that somehow God helps me through that trial as well. But the funny thing is this. So when my car was repossessed, when they take it to wherever they take it to their warehouses, they they clean the car up and they put everything in these cheap trash bags. And so when I got my stuff back and I was going through it, taking stuff out of the bag, I noticed that my medication that was left in my car that I had in the front console was missing. And I said to my sister, and I've said this to my doctor as well, so they took the medication. Now, mind you, the medication is meant to help my bladder to control it more. So I'm not always running to the bathroom. I can now just walk to the bathroom. Anyway, so I'm thinking, um, the medication is called oxybutynin. Okay, so I said to my doctor because I told her, I said, so they took the oxybutynin, and I'm wondering how their bladder is doing since they didn't get the oxy buzz. You know, the oxy that people talk about is the oxy medications that people have become addicted to. So she just laughed and laughed. She says, that is the most funniest um, my joke I have heard. And I'm saying, but it's true, it's real. If you're going to look at the medication, it says oxybutynin. It doesn't say oxycodone. It says oxybutynin. So usually thieves are very stupid. They're very ignorant. That's why they get in trouble every time they do something stupid. They make the worst choices. And if they're under the influence of drugs like oxycodone, they're not going to really think clearly. So if they see the word oxy, they're not going to probably read the rest of what the drug is. All they know it's oxy. So I wonder, if their bladder got the buzz because their brain didn't get the buzz. So anyway, so that is just a fun. God uses so many different kind of humor, sense of humor to us that even through the worst situations or a crisis may be, He still finds a way to make us laugh about it because He has it all in control. So anyway, so I did get the call back, but I'm further in debt, and I still don't have a job, and I'm afraid my rent's going to go up, and if it does, I had told the bank if the rent goes up, I'm definitely not going to have the money to pay on this. So just pray that I do find a job or something comes up so that I can make payments on this call without being in debt and pay off some other debts and still have money left over so I can go buy toilet paper and stuff like that. Um, yeah, the funny thing is, I have to share this with you guys too. So, in the late 90s, when I was living in the Orlando area, we had gone to Miami to go visit our family. I think this was Christmas time because I remember it being cold. And we had decided to go to the cemetery to visit my mother's grave. And I think it was soon after my grandmother, my maternal grandmother died because my grandmother was also buried by that time. So while we were visiting my mother's grave, some freaking idiot decided to break into my van. And they used, the metal vase that's on top of the gravestone. They used that to break through and they stole. They somehow found my sister's purse and stole that. And I can't remember what I stole. But what they didn't steal was the little wooden box that was sitting right there up front. And in the wooden box is my grandmother's ashes. And what we were going to do is take her ashes to my grandfather's grave, which is a totally different cemetery. And that's what our plan was. But because we got broken in, that and all that stuff got stolen, my sister was spending time with the police and being on phone and stuff like that. And then we had to figure out how to cover that window because it was cold that day, very cold. I remember that. So anyway, so we were sort of like surprised that they stole the personal some of these other things that were totally useless. But they didn't take the little brown box that had the white stuff in it. And I guess if you really know drugs, you would know how white cocaine or heroin is, whatever. I just know from what I've seen on TV. I don't know in real life because I've never had to experience it or be near it. But the ashes, in a sense, are white, but they're, what's the word that we use on paint? Eggshell white, right? So we one of the things we joked about that was so funny was that wouldn't it have been funny if they stole grandma's ashes thinking it was drugs and they were snorting up my grandmother's ashes thinking it was drugs. My grandmother would have had a big laugh on that. She would have been laughing her head off. So again, God had to help us find that humor that we needed through that kind of a crisis. And I just had a podcast event with Mike Gershon, and if you didn't get to hear it, you go back and listen to it. And he he found humor through his grief and pain, and he doesn't use humor to make fun of the bad stuff. He uses humor to turn it around to help us see that it's a healing thing. It's part of the healing process. It was part of his healing process of him dealing with the grief of not his he had to deal with several different types of grief. So this is something I should have said something to him. His number one first grief was the loss of his mother. And the actual loss, her death. But then he also had to grieve because he did not have a mother to cuddle with him, to love him, to hold him, to train him, to train up a child in the way they should go, to teach him. Usually your mother is your first teacher, your first nurse, your first advocate, your first everything. This is why God gave us mothers, because they're the ones that help us through our troubled times and through our joyous times. Whatever it may be, that's what our mothers are there for, to be there for us through our emotional times. And so he was going through a number type of grief just from losing his mother. But he grew up being one of the most funniest guys. And he used his humor as the healing process for him. But his humor also became the healing process for others. Okay? That is really important. That we have to understand with grief. Grief is an emotional loss. Doesn't mean death alone. It can be anything. Like my aunt, she had a lot of emotional losses. She was grieving because number one, she suddenly lost her home. Out of the blue, she was scammed and she lost it. 30 years, 32 years she was in that house, and the government screwed her over big time. And number two, suddenly her twin sister became very ill and was not herself. And that's grief alone of knowing that somebody you love and care about is not no longer in their right mind, no longer in their body, and nothing. And that is a type of an emotional loss of knowing the person that you who's been there in most of your life, who you've talked to, laughed with, and done everything together, and now suddenly bloom. They're there as a human being, as a being, but they're not there. And that is a loss, especially when to seniors who had that companionship, and all of a sudden now your companionship is gone. And I'm worried that if my aunt passes away, that's she's gonna really go through loss. But the sad thing is that my cousin didn't understand what grief does and how much it mimics. He kept saying my mom has dementia. I keep saying, Michael, John Michael, stop saying your mom has dementia. She does not have dementia. She's grieving. She has multiple emotional losses. She's going through a depression. She's going through an anxiety. But that doesn't mean she has dementia. I mean, I was with her for several days, and she showed no signs of dementia. She was talking as human as normal as can be, sharing stories. Yes, she might have short-term memory, but guess what? So do I. So do you. So does a lot of other people around us. And that happens with grief. And if you don't understand grief, you got to trust me when I share this stuff and educate people the difference of the different types of grief and how grief affects us mentally, physically, and even spiritually. Um, and it's really sad because a lot of us grief coaches who've gone through a lot of the training, who's gotten through a lot of using the skills and everything that we have, and it's relatives and close friends that don't trust you enough that what you're sharing is really important stuff to understand. Because if you don't understand grief and how it affects us, then you can misinterpret or misdiagnose. Because they were saying, oh, my other aunt was doing this and this and this, and kind of found out she had UTI. She was really ill, and with seniors, UTI really affects their brain. So you cannot say she's psychotic. You cannot say any of this stuff because you don't know what the situation is. She may behave like it, but that's just symptoms. It's symptoms. Doesn't mean she's got what you claim it. You got to stop claiming stuff that you don't know the facts, you know. But it's sad. Too much was going on while we were down in Miami. There were a lot of, and there was, my sister and I were like cats and dogs. And I feel I cannot be around her because she never lets me finish my conversation. She dominates too much, and I'm just I'm just over it. I'm just so over it. And uh, don't get me wrong, I love my sister, my twin sister like that. I love her, but um, there's a point, when you need to have your own self identity. You don't need someone to dictate your life or tell false stories or anything like that. But anyway, whole different story. So I wanted to check in with everybody. I want to say, how are you doing? I hope all is going well with everybody, and I pray and hope that everybody's doing well. I know some of us are going through some difficulties. There have been recent deaths in the Muscat District community that is very hard for many of us when we lose a son. And again, my heart goes to families who lose their children, but my heart also goes to families who loses maybe a parent or a sibling or a very close friend. So one thing I do want to do, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can move on or you can stay. And I want to do prayer um, because I believe in the power of prayer. I also believe in miracles. Um, I believe that we are all created for a purpose. And although a lot of people may not want to hear it or accept it, that's fine. Um, that's your choice. But I just don't want you to miss out on a blessing that can, oh, that can, you know, something that can be a blessing to you by having certain people in your lives and certain people you just now choose you don't want to be there. So if it's okay with you, I want to have prayer. Um, I am not going to play music because sometimes Facebook doesn't allow us to play certain music, and I'm just like, oh God, why did the people? It's just music. But anyway, so but it's also I also believe that music is a healing thing to many, and a lot of you may agree that music, for some reason, helps us to relax, to be we become we go into the core of our soul, and we learn to rediscover ourselves. It helps clear the minds, and sometimes, or most of the times, it may bring back good memories of people that we loved. Um, but prayer also can do that for you, and it does it more than what music can do. Music, depending on the lyrics, can tell stories, and it can be a story that you may be related to. But prayer brings you to the God Almighty that can do wonders for you that maybe music cannot do. But both of them together, to me, is really, really important. So if you want to play a song while we're doing the prayer, go ahead. And the song that I love the most is you can go on to YouTube and listen to it by the Heritage Singers. It's got "I'm Praying for You." I wish I can play that song because it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. Someone is praying for you is what the song. Someone is praying for you, and uh, okay, if you could go on to YouTube, someone is praying for you by the Heritage. And if you find the song, just listen to the words, because every song that we listen to that has words has a message, has a message for you. It may have a story that's related to with you, familiar, similar. But whatever it is, it brings comfort. It brings encouragement. It brings so much hope. And the, the amount of music I listen to mostly Christian music songs. Sometimes I go back to the 90s, the classic songs, and it brings back, I feel like I'm in the 80s again. But it brings comfort to you. And I'm going to do this as a homework assignment. You don't have to come to me and say, oh, I did this and it helped me or not. That's not important. I want you to take the time this week, if you have not done this before, is to find something that calms your soul. And if it's music, do it. If it's meditation and you know how to do it, then do it. If it's yoga, I hear yoga is a big thing that it helps people. But find every day, at least 10 minutes a day, something that can calm the brain, that it's quiet, there's peace, there's calmness, and it just helps us to see how we can enter the core of our soul and bring that calmness. I know some people who have anxiety. I would suggest you take a few deep breaths in, hold it, and then let it out. Do that several times. It really is a big difference. I get anxiety a lot, but I don't use medication anymore because I've learned to take the deep breaths, and I do it with prayer as well. I take a few deep breaths, and it calms me. And then music, like I said, music really calms me. It really quiets my brain, my body. It just brings it down, and then I can. And when it brings you down and calms you, then when you listen to those words in this song, whatever song it may be, all of a sudden those words makes better sense, doesn't it? It makes better sense, and we have what's the word? There's just something about it that brings all that. So let us. But the most important thing that I really want people to feel, and I know some people may be objective to this, and that's your decision, but I believe in the power of prayer. I do. And I'm going to be honest with you about something. I feel like in the last several months, I've just, I've prayed, but I've not prayed earnestly. I have not, I've like just fallen into a depression that I don't want anything to do with anyone. And I think because I disconnect myself from God is why everything has been falling apart in my life in the last 3 months. Seems like everything has been falling apart because I lost my connection with God. I did not trust Him enough. I did not give Him enough credit because I failed God. I know God didn't fail me, but I failed God. So I I know I need to find a way, and I do need to go to counseling. But for some reason, I've been so afraid to, and I don't know why. But I found that music does calm me, and I need to, during that time that music calms me, to be the time that I spend my time with God. Because when you have that peace and that quiet and that calmness, is when you have a much better relationship with God. Because then you don't have all that clutter that's going on in your brain, on your body. You don't have all that loud music or whatever the distraction may be. It's gone when you have that peace and quiet and that calmness, that you can have that perfect connection with God and talk to Him. Just talk to Him. Just have a conversation with him. But when you have that conversation, make sure your conversation is bold. Because when you're really bold with God and you really need to express this stuff and praise Him and thank Him, then you know that not only is He listening, He's listening anyhow, but He's listening really because He's beginning to see that you are earnestly wanting to talk to Him and you are earnestly asking for help. And He will come and help. He will. And I know this, I'm aware of this, but my weakness, I tell you, this is the signs of the time. Satan has been really working, and I know Satan has been really working. So let's try and do this, to bring the calmness, get the clutter out of our heads, find a way to get clutter out of our bodies, and just find that moment of peace and quiet. Take a few deep breaths. And Father God, we thank you for another day that you have given us. We come to you to praise you for the the day, the breaths you breathe into us, the shelter you've given us, the food you provide, the jobs you've given, all the goodness that you've given us that we forget to thank you for. And Father, there's so much that's going on in the world today and that may be going on in our individual lives. Some of us may be going through a lot of difficulty, a lot of clutter, a lot of things that is bringing us down, and maybe depression, anxiety, or whatever it may be. Some people have been dealing with deaths in their family, emotional losses, whatever it may be, Father. You know what each individual is going through, what difficulties they're going through. So I bring my petition before you, my friends, my family who may be going through these difficult times, that you wrap your loving arms around them to give them comfort, to give them encouragement, to give them more love. Help us to understand what it is that you have for us. Bring that healing that we so much needed in us. And we thank you for giving that. We thank you for forgiving us. We thank you for loving us. We thank you for teaching us. And we thank you for sending the Spirit to guide us, to take us to places that would make us a better person so that we can be a better witness for you by sharing your love and by glorifying your name. And at this time, whatever anybody that's listening to us right now, whatever it is that they're going through, I know that you are listening to us, you're listening to them. Our earnest prayers give us the hope that we need and the comfort that we need. Because sometimes our faith is shaken. We don't know who to believe or what to believe. And I know Satan is working his hardest to destroy us, to destroy our faith in you. But no matter what he tries to do to me, I know he's doing it. But I know I still believe in you. I believe that Jesus died to redeem me. I know you love me and that you care for me and that you forgive me and that you accept me. But I know that you not only do that for me, but that you do it for each person that's on my friends or family list because they need you. We all need you to take away all that clutter, to take away whatever is bringing us down. Give us the calmness and the peace and the happiness that we need. And we thank you for all that you have done for us. And we thank you for all that you will do for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you, my dear friends, for being here. I'm sorry that Troia didn't is not here. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to fill in this spot since she was gone, and hope that I can be here for you guys. I want you to know that I have not forgotten. Remember, if you're friends with me on Facebook, that right now my account, Double D Bird, has been hacked. It is under the influence of hackers and scammers, so please be careful. I'm trying my best to try to get that account back. I'm trying my best. I tell you, Facebook has simple instructions, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe it's my brain. This can't be complicated. But anyway, thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend or the rest of the summer. Next week at 1 o'clock, we're going to have as our guest speaker. Um, she's coming from she comes from South America, South Africa. And I have to get to my calendar so I can get her name. Um, Lois Wagner. Next week, 1 o'clock, Lois Wagner is coming from South Africa to speak with us. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to hear from my dear friend from Australia, um, Frances O'Helena. And she's right now in America, so that's why I'm catching her, because at least we're now in the same time zone. But she's been a really sweetheart, and we've been talking a lot. And it's really nice to have, make new friends. Um, uh, she's a fashion designer, which I learned today. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you for being here, and take care. Bye bye. Oh, and also, while I'm waiting to look for my stupid little arrow, you can contact me by my my email, unpluggedgrief@gmail.com. I am also on Facebook, and I think Instagram as Unplugged Grief. I finally got what was my insurance name, D Bird. I turned that over since I'm not doing insurance anymore, and use that for me. But I'm trying to get it out of the page mode. Um, and my website is www.unpluggedgrief.org. So thank you, and have a wonderful weekend. Let's see if I can find my mouse. Whatever you do, don't get your mouse wet, because when you do, it does these stupid things. I see it, but it's not wanting to move to where I want it. Ugh, I hate this laptop. Come on. I don't know if you all see it, but it's shaking my screen. There we go. Good night.